David Katz.
Great to be with you guys.
Yeah, David, I know, you're on London radio, as I've mentioned, and on Fox News Channel for various legal takes as well. And I'm so grateful for you working us in. I'd mentioned that there's a lot going on, and we can, move through it as quickly as we can on this very busy day. The breaking news of the moment was this Menendez, their new charges that are going to be leveled against Menendez, the senator, the Democratic senator, who was found with the gold bars and the cash and all these things, and with a relationship with Egypt. I wonder if you could speak to that bribery scheme that he's now being accused of with the Egyptians.
Well, let me just say first, happy anniversary. 1 year.
Yeah,
it's great. And I want your viewers and listeners to know that when you went on the air a year ago, here was Trump running around the country, not charged with a single thing. And a year later, Mark, indicted 4 times in 4 different places, 2 of them in federal court, 2 in state jurisdictions by different district attorneys. Now, just because something happens before something else happens doesn't mean there's a cause-effect relationship. But let's not forget, when you went on the air, and I think maybe they knew that David K. Johnston, Jim Avila, you, me, Kim, we weren't going to stand for it, were we? This man acted with impunity. So who knows what the next year is going to hold? I don't think it's going to hold him being in jail, but maybe the year after that, it will we'll really see him get the accountability that he so richly has earned with his misdeeds all of these years. And these, what do they say, chickens that are coming home to roost. And let's hope that it has an impact with the voters in November 2024, because that's what really matters, I think, even more than the court cases. Of course, the court cases may shed light for some of the voters who are sticking with him, some of his base, to say, you know what, this is not the country that we want. This is the person that we want to deal with the crisis in the Middle East, all the things, these existential problems that Israel has, that the whole world has if we have war in the Middle East. You really want Trump in charge of that again, people? Come on, let's think about this country and the world and the planet and our future. So that was my 1-year anniversary. Shout out to you, Mark, Tim, Albert. Turning to Senator Menendez, here's another fellow who seemed to be running around a year before, doing a lot of really improper things. I mean, I don't want to prejudge him. Everyone is presumed innocent. Now, he and his wife and this fellow, I don't know his name exactly, but there's a third person involved who apparently commandeered this business with Egypt, where all the food that goes in there has to be halal. It has to be okay for Muslims to consume. And he has gotten himself in charge of giving this certificate. And he's got a monopoly. It's incredibly valuable. So all of the beef products, meat products that come from the United States, that have to be certified halal, which is like kosher for Jewish food. He's got that monopoly position, making a fortune. And allegedly, he kicked back money to Menendez and his wife, money, gold bars, so forth. And what Menendez and his wife and this fellow have now been charged with is being foreign agents. They basically were agents for Egypt. They would have to register. That's one of the allegations that's made against Hunter Biden, right? That he should have registered to be an agent for Ukraine, for China. He didn't. Now that allegation has not been brought in court as a criminal charge against Biden. It's just been bandied about, especially by the Republicans in Congress. But it's against the law to be a foreign agent without registering. And all the people like at big law firms, when I was at a big law firm in Washington, D.C., we actually had Israel as a client. We also had Switzerland. So I was a registered foreign agent for Israel and for Switzerland. I wasn't doing anything wrong, right? But if you're going to be an agent for a foreign government in this country, you have to register. Well, that was basically a technical violation, but it's been boosted up to criminal charges. And it's a good criminal charge against Senator Menendez if they can prove that he was an agent for Egypt. And there's certain things that qualify you as being an agent. And it sure seems like he did those things. I mean, they'll have to prove it in court. It may have prolonged his trial because, as I understand it, this is a superseding charge. And if you want to talk about that, that's an interesting inside baseball. But that's also what Representative George Santos got charged with a
Right. I do want to get
charge.
to the Santos and the superseding indictment, but I want to just follow up on this, David. If Menendez had registered as a foreign agent, in other words, doing, representing or in some way connected to the government of Egypt, that still wouldn't have gotten him off the hook. I think what they're talking about here is bribery, isn't it?
Yes, it's bribery, but the mere act of not registering as a foreign agent is a separate crime.
Okay.
That's what they're saying, and that if you meet those qualifications, we were getting paid by Switzerland. We were advocating things for Switzerland before the U.S. government. We weren't taking a bribe. We were taking a perfectly proper legal fee, but we had to register as foreign agents for Switzerland.
But he couldn't have received these monies, the gold bars, the Mercedes, the compensation freely, that is legally, were he just to register as a foreign agent, or could he?
He could have registered as a foreign agent, but my God, that would have been the end of his senatorial seat. How could you be a U.S. senator in the United States if you're a registered agent for a foreign country? How can you be the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and you say, look, let's make an objective judgment on this that helps the United States, and actually you're an agent? So the minute you filed that form, that is totally inconsistent, right?
Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
The point is that that's a superseding charge, which may delay the trial of Senator Menendez, because you have, under the Federal Speedy Trial Act, 70 days to respond to any kind of superseding charge. So Santos will have at least 70 more days now that he's been charged with superseding charges. And Mark, I just have to mention this. I'm a working lawyer. One of my clients got charged in federal court this same week. He turns out to be, at the very least, the third person this week, and not at all newsworthy, who got charged with a superseding charge, which has had the result of not only delaying his trial, but also in the real world, if you're not Santos and you're not Senator Menendez, they usually ask for a higher bail, or they can even ask, if it happened during the period that you were out on bail, they can ask to revoke your bail. The idea being that, wait a second, you've been released on bail, and now you got in trouble while you were out on bail. If that happens, the government can proceed by clear and convincing evidence and try and forfeit your bail or even remand you to custody. Fortunately, that didn't happen with my client. I persuaded the government and the court not to remand him to custody, but it is going to prolong his trial because he got charged in one of these superseding indictments, which means they take the original charges and they say, okay, now, in addition to all of that you're charged with, which is Menendez's situation, he's still charged with a bribery. He's still charged with all the things he was charged with the first time, the gold bars and all that. But on top of that, there's another, let's say there were 5 charges in that indictment. Now, it's charge number 6. In addition to what we charged you with before, we're going to supersede that indictment. We're going to charge you with not registering as a foreign agent. Or with Santos, Santos took this money allegedly from his donors. He took the numbers of his donors off their credit cards and said, oh, you wanted to give me $2,000. Isn't that nice? Now I have your credit card number and your information. I'm going to hammer your card for another 20 grand.
Right.
That's what he's actually charged with. It's just old grifter stuff, if it's
exactly.
true.
And I'm glad you said that, because, apart from all the legal stuff and the superseding indictment stuff and the, whatever, it is important to underscore that Santos was involved in that scheme. It's a real old school kind of clunky grift where you take somebody's credit card. You used to hear about it in restaurants. Remember the old school restaurants where people would give their credit card and that number would be living there and that receipt would be living there. And, it wasn't uncommon to have, the restaurant employees or somebody go through and try to grab those. That's essentially what Santos did. He's accused of doing.
It's not old school for us white collar criminal defense attorneys. It's still going on. It's still getting charged, and we're defending people. There are obviously defenses to those things, and who did it and what was the intent of the person who gave their credit card. And some of those people presumably sort of believed in Santos. Santos may say, well, wait a second, this is a misunderstanding with that particular person. They wanted to contribute to me. This is what I think Trump does, but Trump has better lawyers, right? Who put it, the person contributes to the Stop the Steal. Next thing you know, it's in some kind of, 501c organization. Next thing you know, it's being spent for him campaigning for president and hiring all these people. And I'm sure that that's one of the things that you could argue against Trump. But there are so many allegations against Trump. There will not be, in my opinion, a superseding indictment in the Washington, D.C. case. And likewise, they won't add any people, the unindicted co-conspirators, to the Washington, D.C. federal case against Trump because they're really trying to get to trial in March. The special counsel really wants that March date to stick. And if you add new people or you add new charges, all of that delays the trial at least 70 days and counting, in addition to what it is now. So right there, they probably have to continue it into June 2024 if they added any new charges against Trump in Washington, D.C. federal court.
Just because you've mentioned now Jack Smith and Trump, let's speak quickly to that, if you would, David. Our time is short, but if you can speak to this revelation of sorts, which is associated with the Jack Smith filing. Smith, of course, the guy who's really pursuing Trump on the federal level, which suggests that there is motivation that will be revealed by federal prosecutors as to why Donald Trump took documents, certain documents. They don't specify what the reason is, but in the filing that Jack Smith made and that his people made, there was a reference to the fact that they will speak to that. They'll speak to the specific reason that Trump took these documents.
Well, yes, this is Jack Smith, the special counsel, finally appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland to be responsible for these Trump prosecutions. And he's brought not only this one that you asked me about, but he's brought the one in the Southern District of Florida before Judge Cannon, which looks like it's drifting past the election. But this one that we're focused on now, I think, is the one that may actually go before the election. And regarding the documents that he kept, I don't think we're going to know about that before the election, because I don't think that trial is going to go before the election. But yes, and I think it's going to be very simple, kind of what your listeners and viewers are thinking about, that he kept the ones from the Middle East. He thought that those had trading value. You know, he was going to sell them or the information to the Saudis, to the Qataris, to his friends in the Middle East, the people who gave his son-in-law $2 billion. And he was going to exploit them financially. He was also going to exploit some of them, for his own political gain. And like when this former Joint Chief of Staff Milley said, Trump was kind of impeding our efforts in Iran or something. He said, I was impeding the efforts in Iran. Trump said that's when he's showing that document about the Iranian invasion, the implication being, I didn't impede the invasion of Iran. I didn't want to invade Iran like Milley is suggesting. It's the opposite of what Milley says. And that's why he was waving around that highly confidential document, because he thought that it made a good argument to whoever he was trying to impress. Maybe he was just trying to impress them because he has this out of control ego. Maybe he was trying to impress them because the person was going to give him some money. There's also an allegation in the Bankston-Fried case. This is the cryptocurrency.
All right, let's finish with Bankman-Fried, because I've got Professor Facknoy waiting.
Let me finish with this point really quick.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
One of the allegations in Michael Lewis's book is that while this Bankston-Fried was going to save the world and do good with all of this crypto money, he was going to pay Trump not to run. And so one of the allegations in the book is that the message came back to him. Now, this may be totally untrue, total speculation, okay? But that Trump said, yes, for $5 billion, I won't run. So there's actually a cross-pollination between that allegation and Michael Lewis's book about the Bankston-Fried case, that he wanted to give Trump enough money not to run, and the price he heard back was $5 billion.
I'll tell you,
that's apocryphal. Totally apocryphal, Mark.
If it's true, it's a much higher price for Trump than I would have thought he would go for. But we can follow up on Sam Bankman-Fried next time, David. I've got Professor Facknoy waiting. I can't say it enough. I'm so grateful for your contributions here every week. We look to you. You're kind of our legal North Star. And the fact that you've taken time, I mean, you are a working lawyer and, a former federal prosecutor, now a defense attorney. And the fact that you work tirelessly and still make time for us, it means so much to us. And I want you to know we're very grateful. So thank you.
I don't want to delay your other guest on our 1-year anniversary. If people should watch before next week when I'm on next Thursday, there's going to be some interesting litigation in the D.C. federal court about whether Trump can assert advice of counsel. You might say, well, why on earth does he have to tell the court whether he's going to rely on advice of counsel? His spokespeople and he go around the country and they say, oh, I did everything based on the lawyers. I had great lawyers. I had Eastman. I had this other lawyer. I had this lawyer. if he's really going to put on that defense in court, there is some authority that says he has to disclose that so that the government then has a right to look into that defense, so they're not ambushed by that defense. Trump may get on the stand and say what Trump wants to say, but normally people don't expect Trump to get on the stand and say it. They expect that he'll show that with legal memos, he'll show that with lawyers' testimony. If he wants to show it that way, he may have to disclose it early. And during this week, I know everybody's watching this grim situation in the Middle East and everything else, but if that's going to be a legal interesting point during this week. Just wanted to close with that.
Well, the last thing, and then I'll just mention that we can follow up next week. The Supreme Court case on gerrymandering in South Carolina, to me, is a huge, huge case as well. So we'll get to that. I know we put some back burner stuff in for next week, but we'll do it then. David Katz, everybody. Thanks, David.
Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you, my friend.
1 year and counting.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.